welcome to Check It Out, Comrade, an indie game podcast where every 2 weeks we bring you 2 indie games and tell you what we like about them. I'm Nick Glauber.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this week we're doing Factorio and Abzu.
Abzu. Not Asbu?
Not
or
Apu? Nope.
Or Abadabba. Real quick before we get started, we should say we got our Factorio codes from the developer. Is that correct?
Yes. The developer gave us a few codes, and very kind of them. I just reached out, and they want us to let us know when it's up. So here you guys go. Thank you very much for the copies. That was very kind of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Let's go right into Factorio. Factorio is it's hard to describe. I'll go into that a bit later. But it was released originally. The original alpha came out in 2012, and it's available on Windows, OS X, and Linux. And it's still technically early access. Very heavily developed. New update comes out, every week or two.
2012.
Yeah, that's apparently when the first alpha release was out. It's being developed by a team calling themselves Woob Software, who are from Prague. I read that way literally.
It's okay. I have done that exact same thing before.
I was just scanning an article. And, All right.
I also just played the new Deus Ex, which takes place in Prague.
Oh yeah.
So I got to hear
right.
JC, not JC, Adam Jensen go like Prague like 1,000 times.
That's good too, right? Even raving about that.
Oh yeah, that's really good.
All right. Anyway,
very different than either of these games.
Yeah, true. It's been available on Steam since February of this year, and expected a full release, a 1.0 version sometime this or next year, presumably.
Even before it is released, it is wildly successful.
Oh yeah, this is a huge hit already.
Yeah, huge hit. Overwhelmingly positive. Good reviews on Steam. The people I know who like this game, like it was like this hole was made for you.
Yes.
Like that kind of thing. And like everyone who I've talked to who is like into this, like it's gonna be interesting to talk about it because it's something that's not for me, but it's interesting the way it's not.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting game.
I've seen some of your talking on Twitter and in the chat about it, and I definitely want you to go into waxing philosophical about it because I really liked what you had to say. But let me try and describe what it is.
Yeah, let's say what it is before, just in case. And one thing I'll say before we get into this, because part of this show, unlike other shows on the network, kind of functions a little bit consumer fronted or consumer friendly. Like I think people do use this show for recommendations in a way that like they don't use other shows on the network for recommendations.
Right.
Listen to this carefully, because if this sounds like good to you, like this is similar in my mind to something like Rocket League, where I feel like it is probably one of the best expressions of an idea that's not, not necessarily for me, but like I can recognize that it is in this weird kind of pure way, this type of game. So like, if this sounds appealing to you, you should 100% try this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try and give it kind of a clean elevator pitch that probably involves more than you would even get just by starting it up and playing for an hour. You are a human or humanoid person on a planet otherwise empty of whatever you are, and there are various elemental resources just available. There's some coal and iron and copper stockpiles. It plays like a RTS, or it looks like an RTS when you're looking at the camera, right? So it's overhead. You can see all these resources, and you can go up to them and start mining them out, and you have crafting recipes, and you can craft stuff. So it's very heavily a crafting game. But where this diverges from everything else is it then gives you the ability to produce tools from what you've mined out to then automate that work. So you can build miners that will then extract those resources from the ground. And you build a shit ton of conveyor belts to move those resources you've dug out around. And you build little factories or little units that will take multiple resources in, which you have to manually pull in off of your belts with robotic arms, into combining them into making new resources, which can then be continually taken off of that machine, added to other ones. And you have this huge crafting recipe and research that you're going through, researching throughout the game to unlock new stuff to build and thus automate the construction of. So your point in this game, it's hugely sandboxed, very open. You can do whatever you want. There's a couple tutorial levels, but the tutorial is pretty weak at the moment. But when you're just playing a full open sandbox game, your ultimate goal is to create a rocket. And the purpose of that rocket is that while you're trying to extract all these resources and construct this massive factory out of all these, small tools that you're building up over time, this massive sprawling factory you're going to have by the end, you're producing pollution that the native species of the planet, these aliens that people call biters, are coming to. They can see your pollution and they come attack anything that produces pollution or anything that attacks them, like yourself or any defenses you put up. So what you are attempting to do is produce a rocket that will destroy all of the native species and get them out of your hair forever.
So you can continue to produce rockets.
So you can continue exactly. Yeah. So you can continue to turn this whole planet into one massive sprawling factory of your heart's desire.
Yes.
It plays kind of like a 2D Infinite Factory. Once you start getting stuff kind of going, you're manipulating a lot of different bite-sized tools and trying to fit within the space constraints and size constraints that you have around yourself.
It's real different though than Infinite Factory though, because it's not it's not constrained by a win condition.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no puzzle pieces that you're trying to create other than what you need for whatever else you want to produce.
Yes, you make your own short-term goals to go towards this long-term goal that is so far away as to be abstract.
Incredibly out there.
Yeah.
I'm maybe a tenth of the way in my furthest point, having played probably 10 hours of this game, if not more. And I'm very far away from being able to get anything that will get me to the point of having a rocket before I get just completely demolished by the biters.
Mm. So there is kind of like an interplay between, there is a skill test to the game, like how well you can play it, because you need to be able to proceed fast enough to where you can get to that end condition before the win condition before the death condition gets to you. But what's notable and I believe I read this, that like one of the first things they did when they were adding things to it was make the like peaceful mode.
Yeah.
Make the sandbox mode, which is very similar to Will Wright's story a little bit of playing Raid on Bungling Bay and just being like, oh, the toolbox part of this is more fun than the actual game.
Yeah, exactly.
Because nobody I know who likes this game is really concerned with the end condition.
No,
which is one of the most interesting things about it is that like it has a win condition that doesn't matter to any of the players.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nobody cares. That's really interesting because that fail condition you talked about with the biters has this like kind of element of tower defense to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of that DNA in there, so it's like Terraria Infinite Factory tower defense.
Yeah, it's obviously heavily inspired by Minecraft mods that have kind of taken that same idea. Minecraft, you go around digging up resources, but there was a lot of mods that came out that were emphasizing this automation, this creating something that'll create the resources you're trying to craft yourself automatically, and you don't have to do any of the work. You just have to do all the work to set it up, and then you get a box full of the goodies that you've been trying to make,
which ultimately like fuels doing more work.
Exactly,
right?
That's
like
all it does.
There's never like a point. If this were real life, you would, and maybe we wouldn't do this. Maybe that's part of the point of the game is like you would make these automations until you could pursue higher things and be leisurely and like live a life.
Right. This is work for the pursuit of higher work.
Yeah, it's just work. Like, and there's just more work, and that is one possible kind of interpretation of the game,
right?
Which I think is a pretty cool thing for a game to be about.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you'll never get to the point where like there's enough,
right?
That's like one of the things that kind of defines the game. The other thing that's interesting to me, the fact that like you're ultimately trying to wipe out this planet, and pollution is, they're attracted by pollution. Kind of frames it as an kind of an environmentalist story.
Which is hilarious, right? Because you're the bad guy here.
Yeah. But I mean, and that's what that's one way you could say what it's trying to do is that like you're going to keep pursuing this because progress for its own sake is actually evil. Like it's fun, but you're doing it for it's no end. You're not improving anyone's life.
Right.
Except for your own. And even then you're not really improving your own life. You're still doing the same amount of work. You're just doing different work.
Yep.
It's on a higher scale, but you never stop just doing labor.
Yep.
In this game. So that's one way to interpret it. But it's interesting the way that that part is totally just kind of contextualized by like the set dressing. So one way I was thinking about this game, if it wanted to make a game about like the beauty of human ingenuity rather than like the dark side of it, you would say, instead of pollution, you would say it was noise or something like that was attracting the monsters. And then you would be building a communication array. And then it would be the Martian. It would be like, I'm trying to get away with the power of human,
Right.
I have to use like all of my wits to get up, rebuild from nothing and actually escape and do something. And then it would feel like, oh man, human ingenuity is amazing.
Right.
That was the uncynical message of that movie. But it wouldn't actually change what you're doing.
Nope.
Which is also, and the people who play it who don't care about that, that's kind of part of the message too, I think. If there can be one, if there even has to be one, which there doesn't.
And, obviously, the game was designed mechanically first. Otherwise, there'd be nothing to play. To this point, there'd be nothing to play. But those mechanics, I like that they chose this sort of anti-industrious theme to a game about industry.
Yeah.
I think it's a comical
it's a little bit subversive, more so than you'd expect. It's also so I was trying to think of like in talking to people who love this and people who really like it, talking to you a little bit, and then also to Brayton, my roommate and our mutual friend, who was also like going pretty deep on this.
Yeah, we played a little bit together this weekend.
There's a little bit of like, I think that you have to have so you should ask these questions like about yourself. Like if you're somebody who like really, really kind of gets off on order, like this game is going to indulge in that a little bit. Like you are going to, there's a part of this where like people share their screenshots of their factory planets,
right?
On our Slack channel, and it's just about the symmetry and the efficiency.
Yep.
And that being like, if that's something that like gets you on a really elemental level, I think that I can't think of a better game that engages that.
It's brutalism, the game.
Yeah.
How beautiful can you make something that is just designed to make more shit?
That is ultimately kind of ugly. Like when you look at the color palette and the way this game actually presents itself, like it's pretty hideous.
Yeah, you can make, I don't know if it's a mod or something, but I saw someone's screenshot where they're like using the yellow striped flooring as like a visual piece. Like they were using that as decoration. And it's like that's a warning marker, like don't stand here.
Yeah,
that's a pivotal part of factory floors where it's like this is a bad place to be, and they're trying to make beauty out of that.
But it's not brown, so like like you'd use it to make something decorative because like this game is so like metal and brown and like and again, that's not really a criticism. I think that's the point. And if you can find again like here, if you like watching like how it's made. And watching a machine do a repetitive task over and over perfectly. Yeah. Like that's a thing. That's a thing. It's funny how and we've done other games that are kind of, because there's a programming element to this.
Yes.
When you make these conveyor belts and stuff, you're setting like part A influences part B, which then feeds into this, that creates this other thing is feeding into it. Like you're doing kind of spatial programming.
These big loops and chains of
elements of refining.
Yeah, exactly.
But unlike Human Resources Machine or Infinifactory and the games we've done for the show that have that programming element, there isn't a like that's the point. That's the only point, is that efficiency. Right. Like you said, I didn't get this. I didn't play it for very long. But I read about it and talked about it a lot, so I've put a lot of thinking into it. But you saying that you get to the point where you're not even anywhere near the end, you get overrun by the biters. That could be seen as almost like a really, really long Infinifactory puzzle where your efficiency is being judged. Yeah. But it's on a different scale. Like
it's so far abstracted.
Yeah. It's pure. Like this is very pure in that respect.
Have you ever played any of the Anno series?
I've never heard of those.
The last one, not the most recent one, but the one before that was called Dawn of Discovery in the US.
Oh, Anno 2070. Yeah, I've seen that, but I haven't played it.
So this actually is in a way very similar to those games, because there's a lot of, it's all about creating resources from what you have available to you on the land, right? And there's a lot of this sort of perfect ratios to find, like having 2 of these corn farms will make one of these bread farms, right? Or it'll create enough to supply one of these bread farms, or bakeries, whatever. So there's all of that same kind of numbers and ratios of this much production can lead to this much production of another product based on what the output is. This takes that to a whole other extreme, because in Anno, you don't have to create all the routes for all the goods to go. People just carry them from, the farm to the bakery. Now you actually have to create a robot arm that pulls it out of there, supply electricity to that robot arm, feed it onto conveyor belts, get it over to wherever in your factory the next piece is.
And that ratio stuff, like that's another big piece of this game that we didn't talk about is SimCity, obviously, where like SimCity, that the 3-1-1, 3 residential per 1 commercial per 1 industrial, which is like the golden ratio for SimCity. Like that's something you discuss in that game as well. And in that game, you're building out this little thing, and the high level play is just about how efficient you can make it. But for me, like the reason why like I was into SimCity, I was less into this, is that like there's also just a like, like, hey, this is my little town, and I know eventually you get to the place where you can kind of build little forts in this, but I think that maybe that the fact that it is so industrial and so, it's kind of reveling in that made it not work as a SimCity for me. And that's only a small part of it too. Like the biggest thing that you do in this is crafting on different scales.
Yep.
So like your craft, it's always crafting. Like
always crafting.
You're always crafting, even if it's like,
ABC.
Always be crafting. And if you say like, oh, you get something to start crafting for you, it's like, well, no, but then I'm crafting those things.
Yep.
And then if you get something to craft those things, well, you're getting something to craft the thing that crafts the thing that crafts the thing, It's 100%
crafting, but the fact that you are also engaging in this sort of logical and spatial puzzle in order to create that
to make
puts
it
on a different element.
Yeah, to make an efficient version of crafting.
Exactly.
Because it's not just, going and mining stuff yourself. It's not Terraria or Minecraft.
Right.
It is a really, really interesting game as far as like mixing genres.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Like that's why I said I couldn't. It's described on Wikipedia as a real-time strategy game, which is real time, and there is strategy to it.
I don't know what it's a. I was, I didn't play for very long, and like I won't, people who listen to the show and listen to the other shows like know why this isn't for me. Like this doesn't do stuff that I like in games, really.
And this is clearly like a game that I was like, hey, I really want
to play platonic this game, ideal of a Nick game. It feels like, even though like
just about.
Yeah, I know you like you're into puzzles too. So like, and there's not like you're making your own puzzle to this. So it's missing. So I'm sure this isn't making your TIS 140.
100, yeah,
100,
100.
Going away, that still has value.
Exactly,
for you. Yeah. But so I don't need to go into too much about like why it doesn't work. But it was interesting when I was talking to Brayton about it, because he would say like, I'd be like, yeah, I got, I played it for a little while, and all my things I got to like a bunch of places where I had to wait. Like it was like dig 5 steel plates, and I made a machine that made steel plates. I was just doing the tutorials, and I was just kind of standing around, or I'd go dig some wood for a little while because didn't have anything else to do. Just to like get this thing and like the loop. He's like, well, then you get things to build those things, like that loop, even if you recognize it as an artificial thing, it's still real. Like being able to like, climb that, see a new horizon, like constantly zoom out and see, every box that you build is inside another box.
Right. Exactly.
Even if it is artificial, it doesn't mean it's not valuable. It's just how much do you want to see that box?
Right.
Because to my mind, I was like, oh, I can do that, but then I just have to build the next thing. And to him, it was like, no, it's cool. You get there and then you get trains, and then like the trains do part of it for you. And I'm like, well, but then I have to build the trains, and eventually I have to build the thing the trains are supplying parts for. And then he was saying, no, you should really play it multiplayer, because when I played it with Nick just kind of told me what to do. And then I would go over to his things and make them more efficient. I'm like, that sounds so much like work. Like this just sounds like having a job, and we were talking about it, and like, it is like having a job. But the difference is being like, one, you have total control, but you never have it like a job. Right. 2, it's like a strict meritocracy, and that's a big reason why I think people play games in general, is that like, a game has a system of rules that isn't true in real life. Like when you do something well, you're rewarded in a game. That's not true in real life. You can do everything right and still get fucked over. You can do everything right and not be rewarded for it. It happens every day. It happens more times than not, actually, I think.
Absolutely.
And so you're indulging in this like fantasy of what a perfect work life would be, where you can just come up with solutions, come up with trying to make things make things efficient. You have unlimited, you just have the resources that you're willing to put into it. So you're never going to be like, hey, you know what? If this department reported directly to this department, it would be make things a lot easier. And then your boss says, well, actually they're part of a union. That means that they can't do that, or like, oh, there's not money to get the technology so they can do that efficiently.
Right.
Or those buildings are on other sides of campus. We need this middle, there's no to it. You can just make like a perfect work environment. It's a lot like when I described when I was super young and wanted my mom to buy me Harvest Moon, and I was trying to describe Harvest Moon.
Yeah.
And she was just like, thought I was insane because I was,
right.
Like, oh, you get up every day, you get your crops, like you put them in a bin, you get money for them, and then, you buy better crops, and she's like, why would you ever want to do that? Like, and I couldn't really explain it, and it feels like that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick. I think that's probably, we've said plenty about this game. Well, we should move on. But you brought up TIS 100 and how this is so close to being a perfect Nick game. There's a new game coming out from Zachtronics that is like TIS 100 plus another whole other level.
That guy never stops.
Yeah, never stops. He apparently worked for Valve for a while on Steam VR stuff, and then I heard about this game coming out, went and checked his LinkedIn, and he's no longer at Valve. He's back just full-time making games himself. So
I wonder if there's a story there, if it's just just he ran out of stuff. It was contract labor,
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that he was just like, all right, that was fun, and then just came back to doing his own thing. But anyway, let's move on. Because the other game we played is Abzu.
Yes. Abzu. This is by Giant Squid, published by 505 Games. This is kind of the follow-up to Journey, their previous game. Some of the same people.
Yeah, some of the same people.
There's some DNA. It's not exactly the same.
It's the same art director.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
To Journey, which is a game I also played for the first time pretty recently, because they released it on PS4. And I don't want to go into spoilers about that. The less you know about that game, the better.
I haven't played it either,
everyone should play Journey. Like, it's a 10 out of 10. It's really, really good. And this shares some things with it, but I don't like this as much. And we'll get into it. Even though, like, I don't regret my time with it.
Right.
I found this a little bit frustrating. But so, what? Explain what Abzu is.
Sure. So Abzu, you play some diver person, potentially
robot,
who knows, who's coming into who's exploring the sea, and comes about following a shark. So there's pretty much very few mechanics. You have the ability to swim, and you can press one button to interact with stuff and kind of send out a little signal to stuff that's nearby you, and then you have another one that's just like a barrel roll. Other than that, it's all just an exploration. It's essentially, a walking simulator but underwater.
Yeah, like swimming sim.
A swimming sim.
Yeah.
But that said, it is fucking gorgeous, and that's what carries the entire game, is that it is super pretty exploration.
Music's really good.
Music's really good.
Yeah.
And just it's like 2.5 hours maybe of just like seeing some real pretty stuff for a long time.
Yes.
It's good.
It's very pretty. Like, it's one of the prettiest games I've played. It has like a bunch of moments. It has this kind of like, it's not quite cell shaded. I don't know exactly how to describe.
Yeah, it's really smooth, low poly almost. Like, it's all very flat colors, but it doesn't look fake in every respect. Like, some of the creatures look like really real, but yet, you're right. It's very like a flat, simplistic colors on everything.
Yes. And it is, when you talk about it being really mechanically light, like down to, so there are no fail conditions. And there's like a meditate button in certain places where all you literally do is just watch fish eat other fish.
Yep.
For a little while, just for the sake of prettiness. There's a button that lets you ride fish.
Also for the sake of prettiness.
Yes. Again, there's no advantage to ever being on a fish. There are no, it kind of like, there are some light puzzle elements that I think the game actually kind of suffers from. I don't think those add anything.
Man, they definitely didn't add anything.
No. But they're there because it just kind of, and some collection elements that also, there's like two collection things. One where you find these little generators that seem to be repopulating the ocean with fish.
Yeah.
It's really unusual because they come out as kind of holograms. So you never know, up until, I'm a little bit confused about this game, like kind of interpreting it, because at that point it feels like this is a computer simulation or something. I'm creating holographic fish. Right. They come out of this thing and then they turn real. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm on the holodeck. That, and then there's those other, like these seashells you can collect, and they're just there to be a video game collectible.
Yeah, they're just collectibles.
Yeah, it's pretty, like, that's, kind of shouldn't have been, I think.
I'm pretty sure it's just an achievement. Like, it's just, if you found all the shells, then you get an achievement.
It's not even a different ending or anything.
No, as far as I know, yeah.
And they don't incentivize interesting exploration. They're not like
No.
in, some of them are kind of tucked away. A bunch of them are just in the middle of the floor. I don't know what that's doing there. And I feel like it kind of gets in the way of this, like, this art piece.
Right.
That
And
they're making.
most of the levels, despite feeling really open, are obviously meant to be hallways. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
so it's not really a game emphasizing exploration in any respect. It's a super linear game with a little bit of open rooms that if you go look in the tucked corners, you might find some collectibles and stuff.
Maybe. Most of the time not. Yeah. One of the things Jeremy Parrish from Retronauts wrote a review, and one of the things he said is that it's a game that gets, instead of like a big open game like this, should feel bigger as you play it, and this game feels much smaller as you go.
Yeah, that is a weird choice.
And it's pretty fair, right? Like at some point you start just kind of seeing the systems and like, oh, I just need to move forward. This is the critical path forward. I have to do this puzzle. And the game gets less about being pretty as it gets more video gamey.
Yeah.
To the game's detriment. Like I would have enjoyed this as Underwater Proteus. Like I think Proteus is the game that I brought up the most that we haven't done on the show. That is a good example for things.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's at its best, it's just Underwater Proteus. It's like watching a Miyazaki cartoon, but one of the weird, later, boring ones that don't have conflict. They're just pretty to watch.
Yeah, that I totally agree.
And not Dark Souls Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli Miyazaki.
Right. I understood it. I don't know if everyone else did,
hopefully.
But I did.
Hopefully. This is not the Dark Souls of water exploration games. Like there's very little Dark Souls DNA in this.
You're definitely right about it getting more and more sort of the systems revealed and more constrained as you go on. I mean, up until the ending, which is still really constrained, but it's like kind of a real playful ending of
is the kind of the idea. And it's which like it doesn't entirely not work. It's just like, so the thing that I think this game does the best, that exploration of the ocean thing, has been done. Like there are games where like, there's endless ocean. Like there's literally games that like are about just exploring the ocean and petting fish.
Right.
And that, like, I just have this weird feeling that this doesn't bring that much new to the table. Like it's very pretty.
Yeah.
But there's not too much to it that I feel like I can't get elsewhere.
It's pretty is pretty much all I got out of it. And now I feel like that was basically all I was really trying to get out of it too. Like knowing the one thing that it shared an art director with a game famous for being pretty.
Like Journey, like if you ever get a chance to play it, which like it's only on PS3 and PS4,
right.
So it'll be hard to make that happen. But like if you maybe I'll see if you want to like you can play it on Duckstream or something. And just make sure nobody spoils it for you, and that'll be a fun 2-hour block of Duckstream, because it's like,
let's do it.
It's but it has, so that how the end of this game, when it becomes about something kind of when Journey becomes about something, it's great. And when this becomes about something, it's like, well, this, I'm not looking at pretty fish, and what this about, I'm not that interested in. But we'll get into that with spoiler stuff. I think this is worth playing because it's beautiful and sounds really great. I don't think it's particularly like good as a game. Like it's like
it's not interesting. It doesn't bring anything fresh to the table in terms of expanding the art form or anything. But it is very pretty, and it's an entertaining short.
It's very beautiful. Like I think I like, my standard for these games is like, this kind of game is going to be something like Proteus, where it's like just the point is just the beauty, and it doesn't have any any gameplay or narrative kind of pretensions to be about anything else.
Which is fine, especially for people who aren't super familiar with games, or this is a very easy game I could see handing to anyone.
Oh, totally. Like it controls pretty well for underwater stuff. Never controls well.
Exactly.
Like on a curve,
it's still got an underwater camera.
Yeah, it's better than Super Mario 64. Which is a nightmare. And guess what? Mario Galaxy is no better. Like, just played that for the show, and it's also a nightmare. Underwater controls are bad.
Always.
But yeah, let's get to the spoiler stuff.
Yeah. So real quick, some admin stuff. If you want to help support the show, support all the shows on the Duckfeed Network, you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. There's various rewards for you for however much you might be able to pitch us, and that's the most direct monetary way to support us. Mm-hmm. If you don't have extra change lying around, you could always come hang out with us on facebook.com/checkitoutcomrade or at Comrade Podcast on Twitter, and iTunes rating reviews. Tell your friends. Spread the word in any way you can. That also is a huge help.
And also, meet Nick. Come to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
Come meet me.
Check it out. The Check It Out Comrade is not doing anything specifically for that, but October 21st to 23rd, Cole is flying out, so we are doing live Watch Out for Fireballs. But Nick and Brayton will both be at the booth. We will be hanging out. We're going to do meetups and stuff like that. There'll be information on our website. We want to meet you. Come up and say hi, grab a button, just hang out.
And it's always a lot of fun. Like the four of us getting together is always a really good time. So we want to share that experience with you guys.
Absolutely. It's gonna be real good. So
I just found out actually when I was on Abject Suffering that we have some Comrade t-shirts available.
Yes, we do. If you go to Duckfeed.tv /shirts, and I'm checking that out and making sure that is the correct address. It is. That goes directly to our TeePublic merch store. We have logos for all the shows. I mean, you can get them on shirts, tote bags, coffee cups, anything like that. Do so.
Like a non-shitty version of Cafe Press.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like they're actually, I have not got one, but everyone says they're very good quality. And if you get a Check It Out Comrade shirt or coffee cup, hit us up and let us know.
Yep. I've told the first person, I told this in Slack, I'll reveal it to everyone. If you reach out to me and you have some sort of Comrade swag available to you, let me know and I'll try and find something for you.
And the logo for this show is not like a big obnoxious Mountain Dew. Like it doesn't say the words Check It Out Comrade on it.
No.
This is a shirt you could wear and not be embarrassed to wear, I think.
Unless you're really anti-communist and you don't
stop
want to be...
listening.
Yeah.
You capitalist pig fuck. Get out of here.
Unless you're really afraid of being called out as a Soviet, that I think you're probably fine wearing our sword and sickle logo.
Whenever I talk about, crushing capitalism on Slack, because like I'm turning into a hippie in my old age, but like that's the Check It Out Comrade is like the communism like emote. So people will put the little Check It Out Comrade thing under it, which I really like.
Me too. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so definitely do that, and they're reasonably priced too. The shirts are $14.
Well, so they were just on sale, I think, for 14, but they're usually pretty cheap anyway.
They're still on sale right now. I just went to the site, so I'm kind of surprised. But if you do this as we are, they will increase in price in 6 minutes. At the time we're recording this. Well, shit, guys. TeePublic does sales all the time.
Yeah.
So 6 minutes.
That wasn't our doing. It's just TeePublic having stuff on sale. Yeah, I picked one up for myself, and I'll wear it when we're out at Portland Retro Game Expo.
Absolutely.
I haven't got it yet, so I don't know what quality it is, but I'm excited to get it.
They're apparently very good.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
All right. We're going to do a quick little ditty right here. We're going to talk just a little bit about some spoilery Abzu stuff. And if you haven't played or don't want to hear spoilers, stop now. If not, we'll catch you on the other side.
Absolutely.
You were waiting on that one. I heard you try to get that out.
Not that long. Surprisingly, I want to make sure I got it before the end of the thing, so I didn't have to try to say it at the end. There's a robot diver.
Yep, robot diver.
You're exploring the ruins of a culture that worshipped a shark.
Yep.
That worshipped sharks.
While following a shark.
Yes, there's a shark that hangs around. It kind of seems like a villain. It's not actually the villain. Aliens came down and started stealing ocean energy from these people. Like you go through, there's these kind of hieroglyphs on the wall.
Okay.
You came down with those people. So it's like you're repentant, like you're fighting these alien like minds and this, because the game, like every single fucking indie game, like that starts off in a beautiful world, like you start seeing where it's corrupted by man.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of that. Like it is just, again, like, I mean, it's an unintentional pairing with Infinite Factory, I guess, or not Infinite Factory, Factorio, where like, it's just, I get it. Environmentalism, good. But so you are from that, eventually, you sacrifice yourself to bring the shark back to life, who comes back as Ghost Shark, and then you fuck up all the aliens. Right?
Is that what that is?
I think that's what it is. I think you summon Spirit Shark.
I accept it, but I mean, all I got out of it was I'm a robot, shark got hurt, I help shark, we go blow up mines together. Like it was, there's hieroglyphs on the walls, but the amount of story that you're actually able to pull from the game without really trying to piece stuff together, which may not fit all that well together anyway, is just that.
The hieroglyphs like kind of tell that the stuff I said that wasn't
right. And
that's in the hieroglyphs. Like
I picked up some of that. Like that's definitely the same sort of emphasis I got, but I never put it together into a long form kind of this is the story of the game.
As far as I can tell, that's the story of the game. I don't know why you can summon like a ghost shark. I don't know why when you're summoning life back to the ocean, it's electronic.
Yeah.
Like that's frustrating to me. Not because it needs to have like a literal meeting, but just because it doesn't, it's like when I thought this was a simulation, I was like, okay, this is going to turn out that I'm like, I was sure it was going to be like the ruins of the future and everything were going to be bad. But like at the end of this, the ending of this game is going to be me coming back to real life, like taking off my VR helmet or whatever, and being like in a shitty office and like a polluted, and it's just gonna be like, oh, like appreciate nature while you have it.
Right.
It's not that though. It's
that's a better story.
I think so. Like as it is like the spiritualism, like when you literally summon like the ghost shark,
Mm-hmm.
like that takes this kind of a little bit too far for me, and that's silly because it's a really fantastic game, but like it's this weird spiritual element when everything else has been kind of portrayed as technological up until this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's an orb inside of you that you put into other things to restore the life of the
ocean energy. That's what so when they show the hieroglyphs, like people drew that out of the ocean. That's like life energy or something. They show there's a hieroglyph of you, like you show up at the same time the pyramids show up. These like things, and you're holding the ocean energy as well.
Okay.
There, so like but we know the pyramids took the ocean energy. That's in another hieroglyph. So my thinking being that like you like changed your mind, or something like that. Like you were a part of this invading force and fell in love with the majesty of the ocean and decided not to do it. But like the end of this is just like, it is just you and a ghost shark.
Yeah.
Like smashing mines. And like when you get done with it, like, so the really beautiful parts, and this should be in the spoiler section anyway, even if they're not plot related, involve this, like the moment when you and the shark like jump out of the water.
Yeah.
And the camera changes to above the water. Like that's like a really, really great moment.
Yeah.
There's some like really good, or the thing with the whales, like anytime you're swimming with the whales.
Mm-hmm. The one where it's just the side camera with you like super small against the massive sperm whale. Yeah, that's fantastic. Like that is absolutely. Just beautiful and really, really great. Makes you feel small about the ocean. It's just muddied up with this like mythology stuff. Yeah, I don't understand it, and you're like I did, completely free to ignore it because
that's true.
It doesn't really add anything.
You are free to ignore it, but then you spend the second half of the game like in brown corridors, fighting mines,
which is pretty much what I got out of it.
Yeah,
like that is what I was with the shark smashing up mines. And it was just my revenge for when the mines blasted me around that massive entryway.
That's such an annoying mechanic. Like
it's so dumb.
I didn't want you to have to you to die from it because that would be more annoying.
That'd be
but
worse.
As is, it just like you're just gonna like. I just got really frustrated getting caught by those things.
Yeah, me too.
And then when the shark first eats your little buddy, your little option that you have with you, like I was like, oh, at some point this is gonna start out really slow, and then at some point, like I'm gonna get chased by a shark. Like this is gonna be about, hey, you think the ocean's really pretty, but nature is nature, and at some point these things are not gonna tolerate you. So the idea is going to be, the scorpion carrying the frog across the water or whatever.
Right.
I'm a scorpion. This is what I do. Like that's going to be the message. But no, like that's not the message either. It's just like environmentalism is good. Like the ocean is beautiful. The end. With some kind of spirity ghost stuff in it. And like, I'm really looking forward to you playing Journey. Like,
I really want to
do. So this is what we're going to do for a Duck stream. You heard it here, because we haven't done our 24 hours of programming, is we're going to, no spoilers. Anybody who's listening to this, and I'll put it out there when we announce the thing too. Have nobody spoil it for you.
And to be fair, I think, I know that there's some co-op element. That's the one spoiler I know about it. Otherwise, I know it's people running around desert, and I think that the co-op thing is supposed to be, or not really co-op, but other things are online people. I'm pretty sure that's a big spoiler I didn't want to know, but
so I had an idea of it. I still you had to kind of put your mindset in not knowing that, and the way it articulates is also is still interesting.
Yeah, so, I figured as much. I figured the game still looks pretty. Even
it's very pretty to watch.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll do a block, like a 2-hour block of Duck Stream. We'll have you play Journey over my house and stream it, and then we'll do a live We'll do a live check it out Comrade afterwards, and we'll talk about Journey after you play it.
Let's do it. That sounds great.
And maybe let's pick another co-op indie game we can do too. Yeah, and we'll do a full live episode.
That'll be our co-op or couch co-op special that we didn't do. Well, that one won't
Journey's
really
not couch co-op, but
we can find a couple of the games and make that happen.
Yeah, so that'll be part of Duck Stream. We'll do a check it out Comrade block. Yeah. So it is, even if you know the twist, it is worthwhile. I was surprisingly affected by it. I didn't have people play that game and cry. I didn't have that happen, but might have if I didn't know the thing until the end. It is very I think it's very affecting.
Cool. I look forward to it.
So, and it's an interesting companion piece to this, which is also something that is another thing too, that I'm looking forward to you playing on Journey too, is that movement is really joyful in Journey. It's never frustrating. This is, like you said, it's still underwater
consistently
controls.
Frustrating.
Yeah, it's never put a game underwater. Like, it's never been fun. There's never been a fun Mario level underwater.
Never put a game underwater.
Like, yeah, never.
Ever.
The Tomb Raider sections in Tomb Raider were just like frustrating and terrifying because you're underwater. Like, it was extra terrifying because
the water temple.
Your water temple's awful. Like, underwater sections of games are the worst.
Yep.
Anywho. So yeah, look forward to that during Duckstream.
That sounds great. Yeah, that's a really good idea. I'm glad you came up with it.
Cool. So yeah, thanks everybody.
All right, see you guys later.